Well, we chatted about the Springboks there, but they've finally, sorry Jim, been on the wrong end of a 1-point loss, haven't they?
Are you all right, James? Are you okay when you saw that? Did you turn Argentinian and start shouting Vamos for a couple of minutes? Vamos!
Well, after the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, well, actually 17-0 up they went.
Yeah.
17-0 up, the Springboks. We've lost that. I'd be going.
I
know, I'm only joking. People get so pissed off when it's like, when I say, I don't know why, I don't know what's wrong with people online. It's clearly just a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I do feel very close to the Springboks. But yeah, I watched a massive win for Argentina. We know that they've got that in the tank. They've beaten the All Blacks as well in recent weeks. So I don't know what it is. It's almost like, well, I'm going to go based on basically what the commentator said, and I'm going to steal his line. He said they're not afraid of the rough stuff. And we know Argentinians aren't, right? That's kind of part of their DNA. And you look at some of the players, Marcus Kremer, to name one.
Yeah.
Pablo Matera with his new long hair. Like, they've got superstar players in their team. And yeah, I just thought that when the game opened up, when Curtly Aronson went off and there was that space on the outside channel, that Argentina just started playing and opening up. They were taking the risk to try and get in that outside channel. But that's as bad as I've seen the Springboks play in a long time. Missed tackles, discipline was really, really poor. Yeah, the stable of the game was still there. The line out, the scrum was very, very good. But I just thought Argentina mixed them up a bit, got under their skin. And there's headlines out of that game. We can talk about Manie Libbok's missed kick, which is clearly his Achilles heel. But if you look at anything,
why are you being horrible, Jim? You'd have got that with your flippers on.
Me.
You'd have got that with your flippers on.
I don't know. My feet would have been in bits because it turns out it's a verruca, actually, that's causing me the pain. But if you look at the South African media, like, they demand, right? And the fans, they demand. And on paper, you look at Argentina, it's like, we're going to go there. Yeah, it could be a bit tough or whatever, but we're going to get the win. Look at the bench, the bomb squad comes on. The story around Ebenezer levelling caps with Victor Matfield. So these emotional drivers, you've got Andre Pollard back at 10. And they were poor, I would say, from how I looked. I said discipline was poor. And you're talking about the back-to-back world champions. You'd expect Manie Libbok, and he missed a kick to touch as well, which was a big moment in the game when they were down. And that's a big kick, unfortunately, for him again.
Razzy's made 10 changes, though, isn't he? He's obviously, yeah, he's trying to do something, isn't he?
I mean, they've got the way that they used to play that won them 2 World Cups, where they're just absolutely annihilating teams with monsters. They're evolving their game. He's going for squad depth. If you ain't doing it now, the first rugby championship after a World Cup, you ain't ever doing it. So he's right to do it. And you're going to get hiccups along the way. They're not the number 1 team in the world anymore. Ireland are in the world rankings. Rugby world rankings. Sorry. World rugby rankings. Ireland are back to number 1. Unlucky Jim. And, you know, he's trying to broaden the whole squad depth, isn't he? And, you know, you look at the players, there's quality players there. You know, Manie Libbok kicks it, they win and they carry on. And
they win it.
Yeah.
They win the
rugby championship there and then. And they're going to win it this weekend anyway, right?
Yeah, it was a free shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, like they'll go back to their full team at home against Argentina, and I think they're 4 points clear at the top of the table anyway. So they'll win the rugby championship. But you go into the game, and it was a mad game. 17-0 up, as Jim said. Compare and contrast the first half to the second half. First half, tries galore, and as you said, Argentina came back. Choco Barres, I love him when he plays for Toulouse really and Argentina. Yeah. Carreras on the wing. And I got an issue with Curtly Aronson's yellow card. That ain't never a yellow card. Ian Tempest, my old TMO, coming in. Clear contact. No, that ain't a yellow card. But then Argentina do exceptionally well. They break up. Matera scores in the corner where they've got the overlap because Arenson's in the bin. And, you know, Choco Barres. Albanoz at 10 was absolutely class.
Where's he from?
I think he plays for Benetton. And I watched him. I was at Newcastle Benetton last year for Premier Sports.
I love a game.
Oh, mate, it was a shocking game. I actually looked at him. I'm like, he's decent. But you stick him in I don't know what it is. You stick him at home in an Argentina jersey sometimes, and they just grow cojones and play like absolute men possessed. And they were great. You know, you look at one of the tries from the driving line out, 26 minutes in, the offload from Joaquin Oviedo.
Lovely, Andrew.
Yeah, great little inside ball. And they were brilliant. Argentina deserved the win. Second half, it was 2 penalties to 1. All the tries coming in the first half. And, the Springboks, Razzie ain't bothered that they lost that game. He is bothered, but he ain't bothered because he's grown the squad. And, they go home to try and seal the championship this weekend. But for the moment, Ireland are the best team in the world, Jim.
Do you think that's the last time we see Manie Libbok in a box shirt?
Why are you being so horrible, Rob? I mean...
He's looking for a video, that's why. He's looking for a video to put up for the South Africans to come back and say yes.
But, I mean, they've got some pretty decent players at 10 now.
Yeah. I mean, you look
but you can't not have someone dropped forever, Rob, because he's missed a kick at goal.
You're horrible, Rob. You're absolutely northern. He's like that woman at the boxing. Just like binning people off. Listen, it's tough for him. I can't see Manie Libbok playing this weekend against Argentina. Feinberg and Mazulu is obviously, I think, their first choice, but he's injured with his knee. You've got Andre Pollard. If Andre's on, they ain't losing that game. Go back to the World Cup. What won in the World Cup? Partly, a major part of it was Andre Pollard's goal kicking. And if that's a World Cup game, he ain't playing Manie Libbok. So I don't know. It's not over for him, but there is a couple of options there. Sia Masuku as well at the Sharks.
He kicks his goals as well.
He does. So yeah, it's tough for Manie.
Jordan Hendrickson.
Let's not forget Manie Libbok. Do you remember last year? He'd had a couple of goal kicking issues in the World Cup. He slotted a touchline conversion with the last play of the game for the Stormers to win it. So it's a horrible position to be in sometimes, and all eyes are on him every time. It was a horrible hook as well, but Rob's just ended his international career. Rob, you're horrible.
Well, one player that's not going to get dropped, that's for sure, is Eben Etzebeth, my friend. Big shout out to him.
Urban.
Equalled the great Victor Matfield's 127 Springbok caps in that position in the modern game. That is some feat.
It is a feat. Oh, question for you on this though, Jim. So Victor Matfield, 127 caps. Eben Etzebeth, 127 caps right now. They play a hell of a lot more rugby now than they used to. It's like the whole Jason Leonard thing with England. He had 116 caps or something, didn't he? England didn't play that much back then. They obviously had a lot of games. There's a lot more.
So what's your question, Andrew?
I'm saying, Victor Matfield's still the greatest I've ever seen.
Well, that's the big debate, isn't it? Yeah. I look at Eben Etzebeth, and I'm not just saying this because we grabbed each other and it's all over the internet and we are best friends that I played against Victor.
Eben, my friend.
And a lot of people thought Victor Matfield was limited. He was actually a lot more physical than people made out. Yeah. But it's because he played with Bakis Botha, who was fucking taking your head and your shoes and your shorts off in the bottom of a ruck that actually made it look like Victor Matfield was just a line-out forward. Victor was very physical in his own right. But I think in Eben Etzebeth, you're looking at the most complete lock to play the game. Forget the longevity, right, and all of these things that you can come out of it. Like, he is a phenomenon, really. The way that he plays and the fact that he's got 127 caps, the way that he plays, and he's 32 and he's still got fuel left in the engine to keep going.
He'll go to the next World Cup.
He'll go to the next World Cup, but it's his... You only go back a year ago to the World Cup, the influence that he had on the World Cup.
It was a deliberate knock-on against France, but it went backwards.
Well, it went back if you're South African. So, but I look at him, and I'm not just saying this because I'm wax lyrical. Spoke to Brodie Retallick, spoke to Ardie Surveyor, two of the All Black greats, and I said, "Who is it when you play? Like who's?" And they're like Eben Etzebeth. Not just in a positional point of view, but as the enforcer, as the guy that has big influences on games. And Victor said it himself. He made the joke when he did an interview about Bakis Botha handing over the shirt, saying, this is for you to become the enforcer. And he said, Victor Matfield said to Bakis, mate, he said, he's already in the enforcer. He'll fucking put us both in the room now. But the respect that he's got, I know everyone talks about Sia Khaleesi and everyone talks about Cheslin Colby. Like when I was in the townships pre-COVID and I'm saying about Sia Khaleesi, they were like, no, Eben Etzebeth. I didn't know what else they were saying, but I obviously recognised them saying his name. But he goes down for me. And there's so many, right? Peter Steff, Sia Khaleesi, Victor Matfield, Bakis Botha. It's just easy to talk about, but it is easy to talk about because you're talking about a player that in this modern generation where you've got so many great players, like he's an icon, really.
And do you know what I've realised, James?
Yes.
We are hosting a dinner for the Springboks in November in Jersey.
And he fucking hates you. And he's looking for...
I love Eben. I love them all. Like, I need to wax lyrical about the South Africans because we're walking in that room and we're hosting the dinner in Jersey, aren't we, for the Springboks? Rassie Erasmus, greatest coach ever. Eben Etzebeth, best player ever. Shazin Colby, even better. They're all amazing.
Manie Libbok, you should be playing forever.
Manie Libbok ain't going to be there. I'm telling you, I need to start doing a Jim Hamilton and saying how great South Africans are, even though they're the number 2 team in the world right now this week.
But just on this as well, Rob, it'd be really interesting to hear what the fans think, right? Who do they think is the greatest? Do they think Victor Matfield? Do they think Eben Etzebeth? Do they think someone else like a Sia Khaleesi? But I think a part of me, from where Eben's from and the kind of player that he is, I think it'd be hard to argue now. And it is a great discussion, right? Victor Matfield, Eben Etzebeth, or is it Bakis Botha or Mark Andrews back in the day?
I mean, are you saying best players ever, or are you just saying second rows here, Jim? I mean,
but it's probably the same. But it's probably the same discussion, though, is it not? Because that they're based on that, as in the physicality, the profile of a traditional Springbok. And Peter Steff plays in the second row as well. But is that position, right? As in the size of what they are, how they look, what they do on the rugby pitch. That is basically the heartbeat of a South African rugby player, South African athlete. Yeah. So that's why. I'm going to climb out now.
Jim's going full South African Norse.
I'm out now.
Loves it.
I'm out now.
What about that fight back from the Aussies?
How?
It was like a team run to start off with for New Zealand. Literally, Caleb Clark, Mackenzie, Will Jordan just causing havoc. And it was basically the Aussies were playing touch. New Zealand turned the ball over. Ardy Surveyor then scores as well from a knock on. And it was just too easy. But then it's interesting. I think the Kiwis need to get on the Andy Good Watt Bike training program because they ain't scoring any points after 60 minutes, are they, for ages?
And what are you trying to say? That they're not fit?
Gilly, what have you been doing, mate? Get them on the Watt Bike.
You know what it's like in games like that, though, when it is a team run and you lose that edge in the second half because it has been so easy. That's what it kind of looked like. But fair play to the Aussies. Look, we need a good Australia team. That is for sure. We've got the Lions tour next year to look forward to. You don't want them getting, like they did in Argentina, 68 points put on them. Yeah, but you don't want them getting monstered by the All Blacks.
But that's the 5th game in a row that they haven't scored any points in the last 20 minutes. And I know there's a lot of chat about them not having the strength and depth that they used to have, and maybe Razor's not very confident in using his bench. You know, you're seeing props playing a full 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So are we seeing a weakened New Zealand side? No, they're not an 80
team lads, get on the Watt Bike. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we are seeing that with the All Blacks, aren't we? At the minute, they are a team that are in transition again. And people were taking offence to this before, Rob, as you were sharing the comments with me. But when you say that the All Black names aren't rolling off the tongue, you think about that team, and we always go back to that kind of 2008 for that kind of 5-10 year period, the glory days for them with Carter, with Aaron Smith, with Mar Nonu, with Conrad Smith, with Joe Rocker-Goslows on the wing, Kieran Reid, Richie McCaws, Retallick coming through, and Sam Whitelock and Woodcock in the front row, Mills Muliaina, Carl Heyman as well. Like, the names were rolling off the tongue. Like, they were absolute greats. And we are now seeing a team that is in transition. And it's a tough job for Razor because he came in with such momentum from the media, from the fans, to take over from Ian Foster, who was the other way. Like, the media had fallen out of love with him, the fans had fallen out of love with him. He took the All Blacks to a final they could have won. I know they had the easy side of the draw, so it's always going to be a big job for Razor because you've got the finalists there and the expectation of the fans, but you actually look at the profile of the team where the Super Rugby is not as good as it was before, and they're a team that are in transition, but
the depth, they haven't got the depth, have they, that they used to have, the depth of player. The numbers in New Zealand are actually going down in terms of participation. And let's not forget, post-World Cup, they lost a lot of they lost a lot of rugby IQ in the likes of Aaron Smith, Whitelock, Retallick, Mwanga's gone from 10. So a lot of the players that have been brilliant for them for many years, and it's a rebuild. So it is a transition, but the problem is for the All Blacks, they don't like that kind of terminology around them because they've been, over history, the standard bearers, but they ain't the standard bearers anymore. The South Africans are, and Jim tells everyone, and Jim knows it. But, when they're good, they're bloody good. And that first half, the All Blacks were quality. Caleb Clark is an absolute beast.
He's wicked. Lovely bloke as well. Not that matters, but he is.
Will Jordan, he's
class.
Trying the first minute, the wheels on him when he just comes off the shoulder. Cortez Retima at 9, I thought he played really well. Yeah, really well. And that was a real standout performance from him because you're replacing Aaron Smith. We've been watching Aaron Smith for donkey's years, probably 100 years playing for the All Blacks, it seems like. And so they've been searching for someone else. TJ Perenara, I think, is coming towards the end. Amazing at doing the haka, but, don't think he adds a lot to the All Blacks anymore from a 9 perspective, apart from the haka. But then, Mackenzie's at 10 and he's really hot and cold and he's not a controlling 10.
He's a bench player that comes on.
He's a luxury
just
player.
Up. Yeah. Luxury player is a very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
He's going to La Rochelle next year as well, isn't he?
Potentially. I've heard that rumour. Or is it official, Rob? You're making it official?
It's just what I've heard.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's in cement.
There you go. If Rob says it, it's happening. But, they've unearthed Satiti at 6, who was phenomenal again.
He's class.
I wouldn't fancy tackling him or being tackled by him. He was class. But being frank, they've lost a load of rugby IQ post-World Cup. They haven't got the depth that they've always had, but they're still a bloody good team. And, they'll probably come second in the Rugby Championship. Their test, realistically, if they come second in the Rugby Championship, people will go, well, you kind of expect that because South Africa are the best team. Certainly, well, they're world champions, so they're the best team in the world, even though they're number 2 in the world rankings this week. But New Zealand come second. There haven't been amazing performances, but you can see New Zealand coming over here in the autumn, playing Twickenham against England. They've got other massive games as well. Judge them on that as well, and that's when we'll see the real New Zealand. They were so in control in that game, and then discipline let them down a little bit. Obviously, 2 yellow cards. Caleb Clark's second. So the second one by Caleb Clark with a slap down was pretty stupid. But, Australia got, a bit of momentum. They've got some good attacking players. The Aussies have. Paisami in the centre, love him. His try, closes it up a little bit. They came up short, the Aussies, but good luck to them this week because they go over to Wellington, don't they? And, anything can happen. Pod.
Rugby pod.